We're now going to learn the Shir of Chavav Nissan. And I want to say this. From now till the end of the Perek, the Alter Rebbe is basically discussing his bonus. Yeah, you want to develop fear of the Eibishter. You want to develop fear of the Eibishter. So the Alter Rebbe is going to propose there's different types of fear. There's different types of his bonus. You want to fear the Eibishter, think about the Eibishter. What did he just tell us? Think about the Eibishter, that he knows what's going on. Right? Look at the two lines before. God knows. When you think about the fact that the Eibush knows what's happening here, and he's involved, and he cares, and that to him we matter, whether it makes sense to us or not, so you're afraid of the Eibush. You have this fear of the Eibush, this respect for the Eibush. Says the Rebbe like this: though Hashem has no body, and if he has no body, how could you say he sees? How could you say he hears? He has no eyes, he has no ears. Says the Alter Rebbe, how do you add the Rebbe to the contrary? When you have eyes, you have a tool for seeing. When you have ears, you have a tool for hearing. One part of you sees, one part of you hears. By the Eibush, there is no pieces. The whole Eibishter sees, the whole Eibishter hears. Or in other words, the Eibishter doesn't see Davash Achutz Mimeno like you see. What do you look at? You look at him, you don't look at yourself. What do you hear? His words, not your own words. By the Eibishter, there's no Zulas. So he sees without eyes and he hears without ears. The famous pasuk, Haneita Eizan ala Yishmam Yetzirayin ala Yah. But if Hashem could give us ears, He can hear. Hashem give us eyes, He can see. So the whole question then begins: does that mean He has ears and eyes? And of course, Mechaykim would say Dibetedik Lashem Niyada, and the Mekubalim would say Eses Firas of Atzilis. But ultimately, Hashem doesn't need eyes to see because He's seeing Himself. Doesn't need ears to hear because He's hearing Himself. We are Him. So without eyes, without ears, He's Reya and Chimeya, and Faket much better because it's an intimate seeing and hearing. Says Rabbi Adam to the contrary. By the Eibush doesn't have to see, it's seen. Right? You know this idea. Chassidus is the whole sugya of Yodeya and Yadu. It's in Teireh, I think in Bereshis. Yodeya or Neach. Yodeya and Yadu. Yodeya means He knows. Yadu means it's automatically known. Das Tacht Natzilus is Yodeya. And Matat, Yetzirah is Yodeya. And in Saf is Yadu, it's automatically known. Hashem doesn't have to hear to know what we're saying. Because we're Him. It's Gol of Yadu, it's automatically known. Lefanav, but yes, as Eisli and cats with much greater weight, infinitely more. Than seeing through the tool of the eye, or hearing through the tool of the ear. Why? Because He's one with what He knows, and therefore it's a much more intimate knowledge. Raket is only hu al derech mashal. It's by way of analogy. In other words, to make it easier for us to understand, we use words like seeing and hearing, ears and eyes. Just like a person, he knows and feels himself. Anything that's happened and been affected in any one of his 248 limbs, cold or heat. Even if there's heat in the nails of his toes, that if it was burnt in a fire, he feels it, and he doesn't have to see it, and doesn't have to hear it. He knows himself. A person also knows his own soul, his own ego, his own essence. Whatever effect the heat or whatever else will have on the person, is automatically known and felt in the brain without him having to see it. You don't have to see yourself getting hurt to experience pain. It's inherent because it's yourself. Says the Rebbe, in a similar way, a way of analogy, everything that's affected in all the creations, the higher ones and the lower ones, since we all get our life from Him. Everything comes from Him. But everything coming from Hashem is only one level. What's the second level? Everything is Him. And because everything is Him, He doesn't have to know it b'derech zulas, like He knows something else, like He knows Himself. It says in the Siddur, none of the Eibishter's creations is unknown to the Eibishter. Specifically according to this Rambam, the Rambam writes, as the Kabbalah and Mekbalim agree, the Mak says it in Pardes, we had it in Tanya Perek Beis in the Hagor, and we're going to have it also in Shara Yuchas Muna Perek Tes in the Hagor. That by the Eibishter, not only does He know us because we come from Him, but He knows us because we are Him. By knowing himself, he knows all of us. Which come into existence from the truth of his existence, and so forth and so on. So we have three levels. The first level would be how you see and hear him, which is Zulas. For this you need eyes and ears. The second level is how you know you. You don't need eyes and ears. The third level is how the Eibishter knows us, which is even deeper than the way you know yourself. And that's what he continues and he says now. This mashal, that to say that Hashem knows us like we know ourselves, is simply to make it a little bit easier for us to understand. The truth has to be said that you cannot compare the way you know yourself to the way the Eibishter knows himself. Because sof kol sof, even though your knowledge of you is more intimate than your knowledge of something else, it's still you knowing yourself as two separate things. The human soul, the intellectual and godly souls as well. Are affected from the effects of the body, the events of the body, and its pain. Because it's in the animal soul which is revealed in the body. So when you know yourself, your soul has been affected by the body, and that's how you know. So the dakas hastes, the soul and the body are fusing, the neshama and the guf are becoming one, and the neshama knows the body by knowing itself, but the neshama knows the body by knowing itself, but the neshama has been modified, has been changed by the body. So the dakas is an inyan of zulas. The body and the soul meet, they're separate things, they become one. But just like the body of the soul affects the body is affecting the soul. There's two qualities. Number one, he knows us by knowing himself. And number two, the way he knows is that we're totally not affecting him and touching him whatsoever. That Einim Mispali is not affected, chas v'shalom, God forbid, from the events of this world and its various dynamic changes, chas v'shalom. And therefore, we have three levels again. Level number one is that you know something else. For this, you need to have eyes and ears, because it's a zulas. Level number two, you know yourself, there's no zulas, don't need eyes and ears. But bedakas, there's guf and neshama, which is bedakas and inyan of zulas. What makes it bedakas, the inyan of zulas? That the neshama is affected by the guf. And number three, Hashem knows us, we're mamish one with him. But the nature of us being one with him is not in a way where he is affected by what we do. He's totally disaffected, and at the same time, he knows absolutely. You got the three levels. Says the Rebbe. To understand this properly, so that's a big deal. You need mikubalim to speak about it. Barichas Gedela. Says Rebbe, if you don't understand, don't worry about it. I call you so, but by Yidden maminim b'nei maminim, they believe it naturally because they're the believers, descendants of the believers, and believe shum chkira seichel enushi, without having to analyze it intellectually and philosophically. How could God know what's happening in a dynamic world without him himself being affected by the dynamism? And the answer is and therefore Hashem knows by knowing himself. And not only does he know by knowing himself, but he's not affected by what he knows. Even if you don't understand it at all, don't matter, because by us it's an emunah that the Eibishter knows, and we all say, just before Hashem created the world, he is the only thing that existed. Now too, he's the only thing that existed. Whether I can explain it or I cannot explain it, I know that everything is God, and because I know that everything is God, I know that b'yidiyas atzma yideh. So what's the point? The point is that the Alter Rebbe is discussing Yireh. What is the hisbonenus that brings to Yireh? So we just had the first one. God knows what's going on. The philosophers that progress say God doesn't know what's happening in this world. And as I explained to you many times, they say not only he doesn't know, he cannot know what's happening in this world. The reason he cannot know what's happening in this world is because if he would know what's happening in the dynamic world, it would affect change in him, and Hashem cannot change. And Rambam says no, Hashem knows what's happening in this changing world, because he knows by knowing himself. And it's not like a person knows himself, which is affected, the neshama is affected by the guf. He knows what's happening in this world in a way that does not affect him. And we're going to have three more, it seems to me. I use the word with advisement. We're going to have several more ideas of his bonus to elicit Yireh. The first one was that he knows. The second one is going to be that everything in the world is him. And the third one is going to be that we see others fearing him, and we can learn from them. And the fourth one is going to be that he's miyachad yichudei aleinu, that he has a special connection to Klal Yisrael. This we'll see Mitzvah Hashem in the Shir of Sunday and Monday Mitzvah.